Hey, free timers. What if your work ran like the seasons? Bursts of energy, time to recharge, and real space for living. In this episode, we'll show you how seasonal schedules can work for anyone, not just teachers, athletes, or entertainers. I'll even show you how I'm able to take summers off at the lake. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Time Freedom Podcast, where you can learn how to rethink your work and your money to create a life you love right now. Join us for insights to help you find meaningful freedom so you can choose how and when and with whom you work for as long as you want. Here are your hosts, me, Brian Herriot, and Kirby Denison.
Welcome back to the Time Freedom Podcast. This is episode 10, and today's topic is seasonal schedules for everyone. This also marks halfway through season 1. So I think that's a great time to talk about seasons. Brian, let's talk a little bit about how you structure your seasonal schedule and catch us up what's been new.
So we are going to listen to a conversation that we had as part of your, what do you call it?
So it was the Aligned Growth Summit.
Aligned Growth Summit. And we had a wonderful conversation about seasonal schedules, which is how do we break out of the working constantly for 40 hours a week for 50 hours a year? That was set up a long time ago to keep people on track as part of the industrial revolution. But as work has migrated to more knowledge work and we have individuals doing things here and there, there's really no reason that all of us have to do this constant grind anymore. And it's not fair that it's only teachers and professors and landscaping people in the Midwest that have the ability to take some part of the year off. I believe that everyone should be able to work according to a seasonal schedule, which is to work kind of with the ebbs and flows of the year and the light and the, life's natural rhythms. And so we're going to join in the Aligned Growth Summit, our conversation there. We'll talk about the seasonal schedule concept, how to do it. And then when you have this time away, because we're entrepreneurs and we're not going to just stop thinking about our business, how that time off in the summer or whenever it happens to be is a great time to initiate the concept of your catalyst, which we talked about in an earlier episode. So with that, we'll turn it over to our conversation that we had just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, I hope everyone enjoys.
Hello and welcome. I have Brian Herriot here as our guest speaker today. Brian, thank you so much for being a part of the Aligned Growth Summit and sharing some wisdom around rethinking our work and money so that we can create the life that we love now. I know this goes hand in hand with a lot of the things that you've been working on lately, and I'm so excited to jump in. For everyone that doesn't know, Brian is an author, he is a financial advisor, he is a speaker. And Brian, do you want to introduce anything else before we get started?
No, I'm very excited to be here, and we'll see where the conversation goes. I hope that what I'm able to offer is of value to all of your participants.
I can speak from personal experience. I definitely know it'll be beneficial for everyone and they'll at least get something out of it. So the whole foundation of our summit is to share how you found calm in a moment of chaos. So why don't we start there and then we can kind of go through. I have a few scripted questions that we can ask and then we'll just kind of see how the conversation flows.
Yeah, so my calm is going way, way back to when I was a kid. Comes from being at the lake. So when I was, ever since I was born, since I was 3 years old, my grandparents owned a small cabin they bought in 1979 on Big St. Germain Lake in northern Wisconsin. And we have been going up there as family for many years. And it's one of those things for people that have lake properties or, those sorts of, or camping that they do as a kid, those things stick with you. And you go through life and who knows where you're going to end up, I'm currently in San Francisco Bay Area in California, far from the North Woods of Wisconsin, but both my wife and I have had that yearning for the lake and the calm and the peacefulness that comes with it. And so we have been in pursuit of that feeling ever since we met 27 or 8 years ago. And in 2009, I think it was, we bought our own cabin. It wasn't our forever cabin. It was a squirrel-infested cabin. The squirrels even got in and were trying to chew their way out through the window sills. When we would go look at it in the winter, they would kind of peek down out, from the outside and look at us like, "What are you doing?"
Oh my gosh.
And when we bought the home up in the attic, there was a nest that was the size of a tractor truck tire, and that's where they lived. And then they treat the house their own. Well, anyway, we took over ownership of that cabin and made it beautiful. And then many years later, 4 years ago, we traded that one in for a even better cabin. And so my calm in chaos is the summers that we spend at our cabin now with my family.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I would first be terrified of the squirrels. I don't do well with that. But actually, the first house that my husband and I moved into, there was an old barn in the back, and they said, "Oh, there's a bird in there. Just leave the door open." Little did I know it was a ginormous barn owl, and his wingspan was like 4 foot. It was terrifying.
You thought it was Tweety Bird.
Yeah. They led me astray. So one of the things that I love about your foundation and your platform is being able to use, your time at the cabin and things like that, to get away and find that peace. And can you share with the audience a little bit about how you've created this structure and, like, how can they implement little things maybe in their day-to-day that goes kind of back to your whole foundation?
Yeah. So you mentioned the book that I've written called Time Freedom. It's not out yet. It will be out in 2026. One of the key concepts and frameworks that I talk about in that book around aligning your work. There's a whole separate section on making sure financially you're sound to be able to do this, which we can speak about if that's helpful. But in terms of your question and how to align work, I do it in what I call seasonal schedules. And seasonal schedules to me means, that the idea that the full-time 40-hour a week, 50-week a year way of working is really more of a recent phenomenon that came about with the industrialization of America, right? Where you needed everyone to be there at certain times to put the wheel on the Ford Model T or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that as we transition the types of work that we do in day-to-day from that, kind of mass production type of work to creative work, freelance work, working in lifestyle businesses, serving people one-on-one as coaches and consultants and advisors, that is a different type of work. And it's a type of work that does not require that you follow that standard schedule. And so the way that I think about this is in terms of the season. So there are other professions out there that are seasonal. You could take like athletes, sports figures, they have the season that they play and the season where they train and the season where they take off. That could also be true of actors. They go hard in movies for three movies and then they take off for a while, or performers. It's a creative style. I mean, farming is similar to that, although it seems like in farming you're always working hard. But there are, different jobs. Teaching or professorship, you could work the semesters, take the summer off. My vision is that any sort of service providing job could have a seasonal schedule. And I think there are strategies that you could use to do that. I think there are several things. The one that everyone probably knows about and thinks about already is, automation and delegation. So if you do have a small team, great. If you don't, you should at least have an assistant, virtual assistant, part-time assistant, whatever you want to call the person. But that person can really give you leverage and take you out of the activities that maybe do require you be on, a more standard schedule for. So engaging in strategies like that, of course. Then the other is developing authority. And what I mean by that is if you can start to create for yourself a position of authority as an expert on a particular topic, what that then allows you to do is two things. One is raise your prices on whatever your offering happens to be. If you raise your price, it doesn't have to be to make more money. It can be to make the same amount of money with less work. So if you're working around the clock all year for $100,000 and you can raise your prices, you could still make $100,000, but maybe work half the year, right? That's how I think about raising prices, is not to make $200,000, but to actually still make 100 and work half the time. You can do that. And then you can also, because people will pay for access to experts, you can then take the work that you provide and kind of what I call, it's a technical term, but chunk it. And you can chunk your work into these short, like 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, whatever it is, based on the service that you provide. You chunk that work and then you stack it up only in the weeks and months that you want to work. So my personal example is I do my intro product for people that I advise and coach is called the Time Freedom Forecast. And I spend 2 hours with the individual. I probably do 2 hours of work behind the scenes. So 4-hour chunk of work. That's hugely valuable, but it's only 4 hours. And so if I can stack 8 of these on a week, maybe I don't have to do any the next week, but I can basically place them wherever I want to make that seasonal schedule work for me. And I've just always chosen never put them in the summer, or, I'll do work in the summer, but it's work that is enjoyable or creative or strategic or something that or writing, that it's just me. That's my trick around seasonal schedules.
Yeah. And I think that's, having your seasonal schedule, which you alluded to with structuring your business that way, is just a small part of your time freedom foundation. Do you want to share a little bit more about the rest of, your time freedom and kind of what else it entails?
Yeah. So a big hurdle that people will often struggle with around time freedom is like, boy, yeah, I'd love that. That sure sounds great. But financially, I don't know if I can do it. And it's, I understand it, right? I mean, I was there too. In order to have the confidence to do something like seasonal schedules and all those sorts of things, you need to know that you have a baseline financial situation that would allow for it. And so that's what that's the other half, I guess you could say, of the time freedom process. So you've got, in the subtitle of my book, Rethink Your Work, which we talked about through seasonal schedules as the one framework, and your money, so that you can create a life you love. So the money part has to do with it. Kind of the easy way to think about it is the framework here, whereas seasonal schedules was for work. The framework here is what I call the time freedom formula. And what that is a way to look at how much money you need to survive this lifestyle of time freedom, which I call free timer. And now people who hear free timer, they go, freeloader? No, it's not that. Or worse, sometimes they go, two timer. I'm like, no, that's not it either. That's not me. I'm a free timer. And a free timer is someone that has complete control of their time. So if you want to live as a free timer, you follow the time freedom formula on the money side. And what that means is it's 3 components. The first is lifestyle expenses. It's on one side of the equal sign. You need to know what you live on, obviously. And equals, you have 2 ways to fund it. One is investment income. So this is the financial freedom formula part where, you are fortunate enough to have $500,000 saved up from previous jobs in your 401k, etc. You can live on 4% of that and not run out of money, basically. So what is that? 20 grand. Okay. So your lifestyle expenses need to be funded by 20 grand of investment income plus your flexible income, your flexible work. And so that then means, let's say you live on 100 grand a year, you have 20 coming off of your investments? 80. Can somebody make 80? Or let's bump it up to 90, right? So that you can save a little or a little more. Can you create work or other passive income that generates $90,000? Probably yes. I would guess a lot of the people, well, I know a lot of the people that I work with are already making 120, 130, 140. They could easily figure out a way to make it more flexible and still bring that back to 90. Now, granted, that's just 1 year, and there are future expenses you need to account for, college, et cetera, et cetera. So I have a tool that everyone should go and use. It's called the timefreedomcalculator.com. And you can then kind of take the time freedom formula up a notch, which means forecast it out, over multiple years to make sure that it's working for you and that you have the financial confidence to then have the seasonal schedules, which then means I'm not waiting 20 years to have ultimate freedom through retirement. I'm actually able to have time freedom in 1 or 3 years.
Yeah, I love that. And we will be sharing the time freedom calculator with all of our participants. It'll be just below this video in the description. You can find it there. If you have any questions, you can always reach out as well. Brian, with your time freedom formula and all of the information that you've shared today, what's the one thing that you wish that the audience would take away from our session?
That's easy. If you're, which I think you are, I'm guessing that your audience is not people just coming out of college, and it's not people that are retiring, right? It's all of the rest of us in our 30s and 40s and 50s that are in the middle of our careers. And we've worked hard to get to this point. And one day you're looking in the mirror going, do I have this in me for another 10, 15, 20 years? I don't want you to say, yeah, I guess I'll just put up with it for another 20 years. Don't do that. If you're all in, do it. But if you're not all in, there's another way. And the time freedom way is the way. What I really want is I don't want you to just grin and bear it or deal, for another 20 years. That is no way to live. Absolutely not. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do it a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can speak on behalf of Brian here. I've done some work with him personally, and no matter where you're at, there's a way to make a plan. And so you can have a clear picture and also be able to leverage those things that Brian talked about in the time freedom formula today. Is there anything else that you would like to share? I know that obviously the calculator is the resource. If you have questions, we can connect you with Brian. Do you want to talk about how to use the calculator a little bit more before we go?
Sure. So the time freedom calculator is set up to be kind of right in the middle between super simplistic and really complicated. Because if you use retirement calculators or any other sort of financial calculator online, that's usually where the calculators fall. Like they'll do the 4% rule for you. That's the simple one. Oh, I got $1 million. Oh, you can live on $40,000 a year. Great. It's way more than that, but it's also not, these complicated software packages that have you put, 800 line items in of expenses. So the way to use it is that there's 5 key numbers that you need to put in order to generate your first result. It's your current age, the age you want to plan to, AKA when you're going to die, and the age that you want to have freedom. Those are 3. And then you need to put an initial amount of savings that you have, right? And then the other one was, what your living expenses are, what your lifestyle expenses are. If you put those 5 numbers in, it'll pop up a graph. and it will probably pop up a red graph that doesn't work because you still need to put all your other numbers in. So then you scroll back down to the bottom and fill out your other expenses, your savings rate, your flexible income, your social security, and you can put age ranges around all these things. And once you get all of your inputs in there, then you go and you can go back up and look at the picture again, and you can make sure that you're not running out of money. Once you get to that point, then you can start tweaking with things like, oh, I thought I could be free in 10 years. It looks like I certainly can. What if I brought that back to 5 years? And you start to manipulate the numbers. And if you do, you don't have to log in or anything to use it. But if you want to save something down for future reference, just create an account. It's really easy. And you can create as many scenarios as you want. It's free to use. And, there's no personal information in there. So it's really safe from that regard, or from that perspective too. And so, it's equal. It's meant to be easy yet powerful.
Yes.
And hopefully I found that sweet spot.
Yes. I think it's fun to go in and just like play with the numbers to see like how close are you, or, if you're thinking about making a big decision, like how does that impact things? And one of the things I know that you always talk about as well is, not just doing it once, but going back and looking at this over time.
Yep.
Either at least once a year, if not more. And so I would just encourage everyone to go use that resource. I've personally used it. It's amazing. And with that, Brian, again, thank you so, so much for being a part of the summit. And I know that money and like retirement and getting to that point is always everyone's goal. So just having a different perspective here today and knowing that it's okay to be in a different position, and also creating a lifestyle where it's more balance almost. They say there's
Right.
never balance, but there is more of a balance than what we've been traditionally taught. So I just appreciate you coming and joining with us and sharing your perspective.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Take care.